Many MMA fans believe Bo Nickal is the next prodigy in the UFC's middleweight division. And the truth is, when we first heard that statement, it sounded completely ridiculous, because this guy has had only 3 fights in MMA, so how is it even possible that people consider him the next prodigy in such a stacked division of killers? However, all it took was a little digging to discover that this guy is actually as good as they say he is. He's a freaking wrestling machine that can dominate any, and we mean any, wrestler in the UFC. You just name the wrestler and we'll tell you how this guy will out-wrestle them. So join us as we take an even deeper look into the career of Bo Nickal to see what's so special about his wrestling and why we now believe he'll take the UFC by storm. So without wasting any more of your time, let's begin. One of the first things that put Bo Nickal in the spotlight was his calling out Khamzat Chimaev after fans speculated Khamzat's joining the middleweight division. Khamzat is the guy almost no one wants to face, cause let's face it guys, it's frickin' Khamzat we're talking about here. But for some reason, this new kid wants to take a chance against the Wolf. And after Bo Nickal received his initial backlash from fans, with many memes of Khamzat literally crushing his face in the mat, it turned out that this guy actually has the skill set to defeat a top opponent like Khamzat Chimaev. And this skill set majorly boils down to his phenomenal wrestling. Listen up people, this guy probably has the best wrestling skill set in the UFC right now. And if you don't believe me, then let's take a trip back to Rifle, Colorado, when Nickal started his wrestling journey at the age of 5. Nickal wrestled in high school and won every state championship he competed in. But to put into context just how good he was right from high school, Bo Nickal held a 183-7 record, including 131 pins, and was the 9th ranked wrestler in the nation pound for pound. But hey, almost every good wrestler in the UFC right now also had a phenomenal high school record. So if you were wondering whether a mere high school record is what makes this guy think he's the best in the world, well, it's absolutely not. Because after high school, Bo Nickal transformed into a freaking wrestling machine. He began cutting through his opponents like a hot knife through butter, or like a wrecking ball through concrete wall. Whichever description that perfectly puts into your mind how dangerous this guy was, take it. As a freshman at Penn State University, he had a 94% win record, and that figure just kept going up because in his sophomore year, he held a 96% win record. And in his junior and senior years, he had a 100% win record. But the twist to his story is that he wasn't just winning random wrestlers. This guy was getting wins over the top wrestlers in the United States. We're talking about 2016 MAC champion Jordan Ellingwood, Dominic Abounader, and wrestling prodigy Miles Martin. And it's totally okay if you don't know these guys, but take our word for it, these guys aren't your typical average wrestlers. But like almost every other fighter, Bo Nickal hit a roadblock by failing to make the 2020 US Olympic team. And that was the point where Bo Nickal decided to transition to MMA. On November 10th, 2019, it was announced that Nickal had signed an MMA deal with First Round Management. And just to test how good he could be in MMA, he had 2 amateur bouts against some pretty average guys. In his first fight on September 24, 2021, he faced David Conley, winning the fight via an arm triangle choke, and in his second fight, he won via one-punch knockout. Now at this point, 2 things became clear. 1 is that his wrestling was top-notch, and 2 was that he could go pretty far in mixed martial arts. So he decided to go pro. But knowing fully well that he wanted a piece of all that UFC action, he decided to incline himself with the promotion by facing another new MMA fighter in Jorge Masvidal's Icon FC event. Bo Nickal finished the fight less than 1 minute into the first round by knocking his opponent out in spectacular fashion. And look, we've established that this guy is good, so it feels kinda pointless going over it again and again. But the point is, there are thousands of fighters who demonstrate such strength at the start of their careers, but end up failing horribly when they get into the UFC. A perfect example would be Ben Askren. So at the end of the day, you can't really label any fighter good, except if he's been in a dogfight under the UFC. But for Bo Nickal, he set out to prove to the world that yes, he can be a good MMA fighter, and yes, he has what it takes to bring that dogfight everyone wants to see. He did this by joining Dana White's Contender Series, where he fought in the middleweight division. And just 2 seconds over the 1 minute mark, Bo Nickal submitted his first opponent via a rear naked chokehold in the first round. His maneuvering in that fight was too smooth. It really seemed like he had been a fighter for a longer time. and UFC president Dana White could have literally awarded him a contract on the spot. But come on, this guy had only 2 MMA fights in the bag. It would have just felt crazy, you know? So instead of extending him a UFC contract, Dana White decided to extend him another fight to prove himself in the Contender Series. And Bo Nickal did his thing again, but this time he did it better. On September 27, 2022, he faced Donovan Beard and finished the fight in just 52 seconds via triangle choke. This was the second time he was finishing a fight without absorbing any significant strike. But the thing with Bo Nickal is, he claims that no one on the UFC's roster can boast 1% of the wrestling skills he possesses. And that's a very absurd claim given that Islam Makhachev and John Jones have probably the best wrestling credentials in the UFC right now. And these guys have been tested against the very best, but they still came out strong. So what makes Bo Nickal think his wrestling career is better? Well, from the little we've seen of him inside the octagon, this guy has an obnoxious level of dominance. Like if you take a closer look at his fight with Donovan Beard, you can see the lack of fear or anxiety in his eyes. You can also see how easily he took Donovan to the ground and got a triangle choke locked in. So the point is, Nickal isn't shying away from his abilities or confidence, and he somehow remains unapologetic to fighters and fans offended by his claims. He is actually even more confident he can get the job done against tougher opponents like Khamzat Chimaev. And the reason why we keep dragging Khamzat into this is that Khamzat had a similar hype surrounding him when he joined the UFC. He didn't absorb any significant strikes, plus his wrestling is just as good. But we bet Bo Nickal would completely disagree with that. And hey, Khamzat has actually fought in the middleweight division before. In fact, realistically speaking, Khamzat should be in the middleweight division for missing weight by a whopping 8 pounds. But let's not make this about Khamzat. Bo Nickal, on the other hand, has also stated he's not willing to fight on the prelims of any UFC card. This is a guy with just 2 fights. What does he really expect, the main event slot? It's so confusing, yet so bold. Okay, let's pause for a second. Do you want to feel special? No, here's a better question. Do you want us to make you feel special? Well, if you do, then you should join our monthly shoutout contest where we select a random fan to shout out in one of our next videos. All you need to do is subscribe to our channel and comment MMA in the comments section down below, and voila, you just might be selected as our winner. So go subscribe and comment MMA right now. Although Dana White said during a press conference that the UFC plans on bringing him up the ranks just like any other fighter in the promotion, Bo Nickal is really out there looking to speed things up. And then there's Henry Cejudo, who's also a very dominant wrestler, hyping things up by saying,
"Man, guys, for those who don't think Bo Nickal is a real deal, guys, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, as an Olympic champ, as a 2-division champion, like I don't even want to say prospect no more. I think it's just pending whenever this guy actually becomes champion at 185 pounds. I think if you're able to put him against Israel Adesanya now, just according to styles, Bo Nickal beats him. Bo Nickal beats him. He puts him to his back, controls his wrist, grapples the heck out of him, and that's all she wrote. It's almost like I'm going to go back and talk about how Khamzat Chimaev's hardest fights are not Israel Adesanya. Khamzat's hardest fights are guys that could probably take you down like a Paulo Boashinha, or a guy that understands wrestling like a Robert Whittaker. I see the exact same thing with Bo Nickal.
And then there's Brendan Schwab also saying this.
Bo Nickal is the biggest prospect we've had in fucking years. Huge prospect. Huge prospect. So you're talking about one of the greatest collegiate wrestlers ever in Bo Nickal. Now, the guy that he lost to get on the national team, which isn't in the weight class he competes at, but to get on the team, he lost to David Taylor, who, I don't know if you know this, went on to win gold. Also was his training partner for many of years, so they know each other. David Taylor, it's not like he lost to a guy who didn't make the team either. He lost to the guy. So to go, oh, he's not even on the Olympic team. I mean, his wrestling's decent. Decent? Wrestle Bo Nickal. Let me know how it goes for you. You're talking about he won the Heisman for collegiate wrestling. 3-time All-American out of Penn State. Ever heard of it? So for me, the criticism on him as far as wrestling is just stupid.
So what do you think is next for Bo Nickal in the UFC? Because obviously the Dana White Contenders series isn't enough to push him into the middleweight rankings. And maybe the UFC puts him against Brad Tavares, who's ranked number 15. or against Chris Curtis, who's ranked number 14, to see how he does against them. And hopefully from there, the rest will be history. So do you think Bo Nickal is pushing himself too fast? Or is he just too good to be fighting on a lower level than the top fighters in the UFC? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. But before you go, make sure you check out either video shown on your screen right now. Just click on any one, and we'll see you there.